Hey, Crystal Maiden here, and this is Sonic Rush Adventure. An underrated gem, if I do say so myself. The game certainly has a lot of problems, mainly in the padding department. I mean, at least it doesn't do what Sonic Rush did, and have a Sonic story and a Blaze story, and you have to play both, replaying all of the same levels. With this game, you can just choose one character and play through all the levels you want. Unfortunately, the game still forces you to replay the levels anyways, and you'll see how exactly it does that. Also, it's got a pretty charming theme song, doesn't it? It's so bad it's good, to be honest. Hey look! Tails is caught in a thunderstorm! And he's not terrified, even though Sonic Heroes confirmed that Tails is terrified of being struck by lightning. Also, why is the red plane here? I mean, didn't the original tornado get shot down in Sonic Adventure 1? Ironically enough, in Sonic Unleashed, which came a little later, they also had a red plane, and it was called the Tornado 1. So maybe this was the first appearance of the Tornado 1. Still a stupid name if it's not the original Tornado, but whatever. And I'm so glad that we had actual cutscenes! I mean, as blocky as their polygonal models look, they look pretty good here, like, oh. Visual novel style cutscenes again. I mean, at least now we finally have multiple different characters in the same screen on one cutscene. And, if you've noticed on the bottom screen there, you can skip cutscenes anytime you want. She says that she named the beach herself, even though, well, I'm guessing that the people of the island just decided to humor her and allow her to name it. Cause I don't know. But yeah, Marine is pretty infamous as a Sonic character. Although she's not as horrible as she could be. I really wish I could tell what's going on in this cutscene, but all we're seeing is dialogue. We're not really, like, Sonic's like, can't you keep the thing straight? But we don't really know what's happening. But it's pretty cool that Marine is actually capable of building a ship at the age of 7. Like, she's showing real. She does have the opportunity. She can have the potential to be a child genius like Tails does. The only problem is that she's heavily underutilized in the actual story. She barely ever does anything. Because very early on, Tails steals her thunder and decides, nah, I'm gonna build all the watercrafts. And it's like, if Marine is a genius who's capable of building a ship all on her own, then it should be her building all the ships. The fact that she's so annoying for the whole game makes it really irritating that she doesn't get to do much. Really, tutorial, you're gonna teach me about loops. I'm pretty sure that even people who've never played a Sonic before know what loops are. Not much has changed gameplay-wise between Rush and Rush Adventure. And ironically enough, this tutorial doesn't at all explain what little did change. What changed gameplay-wise is that now your combo finisher adds more boost energy based on how many stars you got. What this means is that if you press B too many times, like in Rush, you had to press B a certain amount of times before pressing the A button. And it's not like you could ever get cheated out of a combo finisher, but pressing B too many times wouldn't really get you any benefit. In this game, pressing B a whole bunch of times mid-air will actually get you more boost, which is great. But that's really the only gameplay difference there is. And it's just so weird that this tutorial just decides to teach you a bunch of things that you must already know, instead of teaching you stuff that changed. And it's like, this is the tutorial that really should have been in the first Rush game. How likely is it that you're going to play this before playing Rush? Like, I must remind you, Sonic Rush didn't have any tutorial for its drastically different gameplay style. You probably noticed by now that Marine speaks with the horribly stereotypical Australian accent. This isn't how she was originally. this is something that the localization team decided to do. Which is really proof that they really shouldn't always let the localization team run wild. Sometimes the original writers really do know best. I mean, there's koalas all over the place, and it's a oceanic, island-filled area, so it's pretty obvious that's in Australia to begin with, without making her speech kind of hard to understand. I mean, personally, I don't think that her speech is that difficult to understand. I like how they have the boss difficulty start out at easy. Although, like, I don't know. Again, I would rather if they just called the easy difficulty normal, because it makes people shun it and think that they're too good for it. When really all the easy difficulty does is make it so that the bosses have a smaller health bar. And even then, they still take way too long to kill. But yeah, this game has a 3D hub world in it. You can run around all over the place. Weirdly enough, this place actually has a run button. You hold down the B button and you can run around really quickly in it. And I didn't even realize that when I first played the game for quite a while. It was kind of weird how earlier on, Tails said, like, wow, you're building stuff with materials. I've never heard of anything being built with stuff like that before. And I felt like that was kind of a stupid line, because I can understand him being confused about building stuff out of jewels, but materials? Really? This is easily one of the most finicky parts of the whole game. Like, for the most part, I appreciate how Rush Adventure makes much more frequent use of the touchscreen, because for the most part, the touchscreen controls work pretty well. It's not just restricted to special stages. The problem is that, well, first of all, minor nitpick here, I would rather if it was only the control pad that moved around the map, because sometimes you can move around the map with your stylus by accident when you're trying to move it around with just, like, you're just trying to use your stylus to draw a line and the map decides to move around. And for another, this game somehow makes it so that even the act of drawing a line is overly complicated. Somehow, you're supposed to know that you don't necessarily have to get the line to touch the flag itself. You can just have the line touch the dark blue water where the flag is, and you'll be able to reach the island. The most annoying part of the game to me is when you think that you've drawn the line correctly, and Tails lets you set sail, and then you reach the end of the line, and Tails is like, I don't think there are any islands around here, Sonic. Let's head back to the village. And then for some reason, Sonic agrees with this and decides to go all the way back to the village instead of continuing on with his quest. The reason that I'm golden here is because I accidentally forgot to deactivate the max boost code. So, whoops. Like, in the actual game, like, I'm gonna be showing off the regular way that the watercraft is later, but in the actual game, you run out of boost constantly. So you barely ever get to have boost. You get more boost energy by doing tricks on ramps correctly. And for the most part, doing tricks is pretty quick and easy and intuitive. Like, you just move the stylus in the direction that the line tells you to, and it gives you a surprising amount of leniency, which is good. Like, for the most part, this is the most fun that I've ever had on touchscreen my entire life. For real, this is the best part of the game to me. So it really sucks that this isn't the only watercraft in the game. If this was the only watercraft in the game, then there would be no real reason to hate the game for its sailing. Because this is so fun. But the fact of the matter is, this game is bogged down by obnoxious watercrafts that's so easy to run out of health in, and aren't necessarily good to control. And I don't understand why you can't just use the water bike and that's it. I mean, I know that the excuse is that the water bike isn't that good at going through ice-filled water, and of course, you need the submarine to go underwater. But I don't know why they couldn't have just made it so that the water bike was all Why did they have to overcomplicate it by making sections of the ocean where you can't use the water bike to progress? Marine's pretty conceited, isn't she? Like, that's the big problem with her. Because of her obnoxiousness, because of her bratty personality, she's easily, objectively speaking, the worst character in the entire franchise when it comes to the games. Although personally I despise Chip more, because he represents everything that I disagree with in a Sonic game tone-wise. Mainly the fact that his entire personality is just, I like food. Let's just talk about how much I like food, and that's literally it. But anyways, this is Planet Kingdom. I don't think it's nearly as good as Leaf Storm, to be honest, but it's alright. When you get sent onto those mushrooms and they bounce you back, often you don't want to do an upward air trick. Yeah, when you're surrounded by stars and stuff, you can do tricks a lot faster than normal and you get a lot more points than normal. So you gotta mash the button a lot faster. And, like, going through the rainbow rings, you get those stars and you can have a lot more points as a result. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, this is Planet Kingdom. You got mushrooms all over the place, and when you do an upward trick, the instant that you get bounced back by them, like when you're being bounced to the side, sometimes you don't want to do an upward trick because it's trying to send you diagonally, and you want it to send you diagonally at that point in the level. But because the boost gameplay has you instinctively doing upward tricks every single time that you can, because naturally you want to be able to stay in the air longer to get more boost energy. So I feel like a lot of times mushrooms are a problem. But they are a creative way to get more boost energy. Like in general, this game has a lot of creative new ways to get boost energy aside from just springs and ramps. I like that little 3D minigame at the end of the level. Like, you're not going insanely fast through it so that it's cheap, that you're expected to go from the left and right to dodge the obvious 2D sprites that are damaging you. So I like it. It's a fair challenge and it's pretty satisfying. I used to have a difficult time properly timing when to press the B button when you got sent over the spring. I don't know how to describe them, but I have an easy time with them now. I hate those vines. I always hate those vines because of the sheer fact that you can jump off them, and you're always going to jump off them because the jump button is the same button as the button that you use to mash to do tricks. So you're always going to be mashing the jump button, and so you're always going to jump off the vines. The vines are really an example of something that they didn't properly think out when they put them into the level. I think you need to run at those things with momentum for them to allow you to vault over them. But yeah, you may have noticed that I'm playing a different theme here. This is the theme of Mushroom Hill Zone Modern for Generations 3DS. I really wish that I could show that game off, but I don't have a capture 3DS, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that this is a much better theme than the one that they went with, where they just go, yeah, like let's just have someone say everybody, 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 everybody over and over and over again. Like, once again, even though the soundtrack wasn't composed by Hideki Nagamura this time around, so it's not the same composer as in Sonic Rush, but it feels like they still kind of have a Rush feeling to it. Most of the levels don't have songs that are properly suited to the context. I mean, a few of them do. A few of them genuinely do sound appropriate to the context. But in general, I don't like the soundtrack of this game all that much. It does have a few gems though, and I'll point them out when they come up. The soundtrack song that I don't like the most is easily the song that always plays every single time you get a cutscene. It is easily the most boring piece of music imaginable. And you're gonna get really sick of it considering how many cutscenes in this game there are and how overly long and drawn out some of them can be. I mean, there's so many different cutscenes in this one part alone. When I first played the game, I felt like it took forever for me to get to playing the first level. But it's pretty cool that they bothered to have an actual cutscene to introduce the next boss. And here's right away where we see the changes that this game introduces to boss fights. In the previous game, you had to constantly wait for a really long time dodging attacks before you were able to attack the boss. In this game, you can attack the boss multiple times, but it doesn't really matter because, one, you're still waiting for an opportunity to attack. I mean, look at this, I'm just standing still. I'm not even doing anything. Same strategy applies here. Just wait for the boss to allow you to attack it. Watch it carefully so you know what it's going to do. The only difference is that you can attack it multiple times in a row, but big deal. The boss still has a ridiculously long health bar anyways. I mean, the first boss in the game can take like over 20 hits to kill. That's just ridiculous. I mean, it was satisfying being able to hit it multiple times in a row, but it doesn't really change anything. In the previous game, they still took 8 hits to kill. These bosses are still padded out regardless. Really, the only improvement is that there's actually a decent boss music for once. Like, you got the cool electric guitar, and granted, electric guitars sound pretty low quality, coming through with compression of the DS, but it still sounds pretty cool. The problem is that halfway through the song, the person who made the song gives into their rush instincts and decides to ruin it with meaningless scatting that make you embarrassed to listen to it. But at least it's cool. At least it has a cool electric guitar that makes it actually fit a boss theme. And you get to, I like how when you progress through a boss fight, sometimes the boss music will reset back to its original badass guitar intro. But yeah, this boss is pretty simple. You just watch the boss carefully and jump into him. You gotta watch the top screen carefully to find out exactly where in the arena he's gonna slam. This boss fight is pretty easy. I like how you can just mash the A button through the victory screen. Like, I know I talked about it in the previous game, but it's pretty convenient here. But yeah, this game is pretty unique in that it has a different excuse for going through the levels. Instead of following this villain and freeing animals from capsules, you go through levels to get more materials to be able to build more watercrafts and progress to other islands. I'm not really sure why Sonic & Tails didn't immediately build a plane to get off the island, but whatever. I guess if they did that, then they wouldn't be able to have the rest of the game.